One of the questions we get a bunch, actually, we've had it already a few times this year, both here at Cornerstone and then also across other network sites. You might be in a situation where your vocals on Sunday mornings or Thursday, whenever they're singing, in the in-ears, they hear some phasing. Their vocals don't sound natural. They sound like a robot. And you're like, oh man, what's going on? Let me walk through how to resolve that and how we got there. So in the show file, for most of the inputs, we have a single input for the instruments, right? So band, keys, hooks, loops, tracks, drums, all that stuff. We get down to vocals. We have both house vocals. They're labeled Vox 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we have these other inputs here that are darker green that are listed IEM Vox 2, IEM Vox 3, Vox 4. So IEM stands for In-Ear Monitor. Those right there are the inputs that musicians should be navigating or manipulating for their in-ears. The processing on the IEM Vox channels is zero latency. It's also very different than the house vocal channels. The house vocal channels have tuning on them. You can turn that off. But if you have tuning in your ears, if you have never sung with tuning on your monitor return, it's trippy. So, and the compression is different. And you might tune things differently for the house or group it differently than you would in the ears. So the first thing I check for whenever there's somebody that says, hey, something doesn't sound right in my ears, is do they have the wrong volume up? You can see that from front of house by looking this way. Remember back in setting your in-ear monitors or setting your monitor mixing, we looked at going to the view modes, change this to monitor 1 to 8. And you can see here that these are all routed. Again, the IEM Vox channels are routed to the ears. The first thing I see when I hear, hey, something's not right, is I'll kind of see stuff lit up over here. And that tells me, oh, somebody's been turning up the house vocal channel in their in-ears. Obviously, they didn't know. So it's a good reminder to help people remember, like, hey, when you're looking in the MyMon app and you see your name or you see vocal 1, you know you're vocal 1. Maybe it says Renee and you're Renee that week, or you're always Renee maybe. But you've labeled the channel. So Renee is looking at her mic. Oh, that's my mic, turn it up. And maybe you didn't label I am Renee, or maybe you just left it as I am Vox 1. Have Renee slide a little bit further over, and then she finds herself in her monitor app for changing the volume on her vocal. If you keep the house channels at 0, just keep them out and off out of the in-ears, you will not have a phasing issue. But there is some latency on the vocal channels that are in the house side. There is zero latency on the in-ear side. And what happens is when you have two sources that are coming in that are the same signal and they're a little bit off, you end up with this thing called comb filtering, where you have cancellation and you kind of get this weird stereophonic sound. And that's what they're experiencing. Maybe you've experienced it. But that's how you get rid of it. Turn off the house side. We would take those channels out of the MyMon app if we could. Unfortunately, you see both fortunately and unfortunately, you see every channel that's available to you in MyMon. The downside with that is there are some other monitoring applications that allow you to kind of turn off channels so people don't get confused and don't see things they don't need to. We can't do that with LV1, unfortunately. But the benefit is you can see all the channels. So you just got to kind of know how to navigate that, but that's the fix when you get into that situation.